Hi everyone, welcome to Star English. I'm your host, Stephen Revere. 여러분, 영어로 대화할 때 가장 중요한 것이 뭘까요? 그렇습니다. 바로 자신감이에요. You must be confident in yourself. 그러니까 실수한 것을 창피하게 생각하지 마시고 자신감을 갖고 그냥 자기 하고 싶은 말을 해보세요. 틀려도 괜찮습니다. Don't worry, it's okay to make a few mistakes. Just keep trying and you'll keep getting better at English. And you'll keep getting better at English in particular if you pay attention and stay with us for this episode of Star English, everybody. Let's get started. And now it's time for a little trivia before we get started. 요즘 어디 가나 볼 수 있는 춤이 있습니다. 바로 살사죠. It's everywhere. People have been dancing salsa for years in Korea too. And do you know where it started? 살사 어디서 시작했을까요? 미국? 아니죠. 유럽? 아니에요. 큐바에서 시작했습니다. 1950년대, 60년대 큐바 사람들이 그리고 포르토리코 사람들하고 같이 미국으로 이민 갔어요. 이민 가면서 이 라틴 음악과 춤을 가지고 왔습니다. 그래서 이제 살사 춤 그리고 음악 이제 세계적으로 유명하죠. Everybody can travel everywhere nowadays and dance salsa and hear great salsa music. And today we have got a salsa dancer, actually an expert dancer in many types of dance, here for you to meet today. It's Denny Hong. Let's say hi. Denny, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the show.
My pleasure. We're happy to have you. I tell you, we were chatting as we were getting our makeup done. You know, we get our makeup done for the show every time. And you remind me a lot of one of my friends from high school.
Your high school friend?
Yes. Okay. One of my high school friends. He was also a Korean American. Just like yourself, they call him Jamie Kyopo here, right?
Yeah, you know, I used to get that confused because I thought it was JB Kyopo when I first got here.
JB?
I had no idea. So I was like, why is a gigolo?
Not JB, no.
Yeah.
It's a very, very different, okay. So, you know, I grew up with him. I grew up with a lot of Koreans around. John Park was another one of my Korean American friends. Did you grow up in California too?
No, actually, you know, it's kind of odd, I think. Most Korean Americans that come to Korea are either from like Canada, like Vancouver, or from California, even from New York, but there's very few from Tennessee.
You're from Tennessee?
Yes, I grew up in the South, actually.
Really?
A lot of time I spent in mostly like Kentucky, North Carolina, and Tennessee. Yeah, so Memphis.
So did you move sometimes when you were young? Or?
Yeah, I had to move a lot because my father was in the military. He's Korean, but he was in the U.S. military. So he finished his service in the Korean Marines, and then he went into the U.S. Army.
Really?
And so, you know.
Wait a second. So he finished his service in the Marines?
Yes.
Meaning he did the 20 years?
No. I think he was there for maybe 10 years in the Korean Marines, right? He didn't...
In the Korean Marines?
In the Korean Marines, that's right.
He did 10 years in the Korean Marine
He was a ROK.
Military.
Yes.
He was a ROK 해병대, right? Wow. And then he decides to join the American military.
Well, he was done, and both of his sisters, they live in the U.S., right? His younger sister, the youngest of the two sisters, my 작은 고모, she lives in Buffalo, New York, and my 큰 고모, she lives in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
And so I guess he missed the family because everyone else kind of...
So he had two
older sisters.
Mm-hmm. Was that his only
Yes.
only siblings?
That's right.
Only brothers and sisters. So he had 2 older sisters. Both of them are living in America. He finishes his
service, and he's like, what
as
should
a
I do
Marine,
here?
and he says, "I'm going to go back to the United States. I'm going to go to the United States to be near my
Exactly.
my sisters."
Right, and so there's a couple different stories of how that all happened, but I believe my aunt's story more than my dad's story on this. That he just got bored and he just joined the U.S. Army because he said that it's an easier lifestyle than trying to find a new type of profession, because 10 years in the military, you kind of get used to that kind of a structured lifestyle. And so he decided to join the U.S. Army, and yeah, he had to get stationed in several different countries, as well as in the U.S., several different bases. So I kind of grew up traveling.
Moving,
right?
yeah.
Army brat.
Right,
yeah.
right. I've heard that. I moved around a lot when I was young, too, about 7 times, and people always ask me, was your father in the military?
And you're like, no.
No, my father wasn't in the military, but your father was, and when you're in the American military,
that's right,
you end up moving around.
You have no choice. You just kind of go where they send you.
Yeah.
Right?
What kind of things did your father do?
I think he was once
in the
again,
Army.
He was in the Army.
They must have been really happy to get a guy with 10 years experience.
Sure. There was a few stories. Like I said, there's stories that my dad tells me about his military life.
Yeah.
Soccer. And there's also stories that my parents, like my mom or my aunt or other people tell me. And I don't know which one to believe. I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
But apparently when my dad was in the Marines, the Korean Marines, he used to train the U.S. soldiers in fighting techniques.
Okay, sure.
Because I think this was probably around, I guess, the 70s. And around this time, of course, actually they did use a lot of Korean Marine fighting tactics to train the U.S. military in different styles. And my dad was in Busan, which is his hometown. And so there, of course, is an army base down there. And he would train people there in how to fight and defend themselves in the Korean Marine style. And apparently he was really good at it, right? And so they were kind of happy to have him doing that for the U.S. Army a little bit too. But I think mainly his job in the U.S. Army was logistics and importing, exporting, making sure all the stuff was stocked inside the base. And that's at least what my aunt says. My dad would say other stuff. But
and then did he do his... Now, many of you watching probably don't know this, but if you do 20 years in the American military, you get to retire with half of your income for the rest of your life.
That's right.
It's a big benefit. Is that what your father did?
Yes, my dad did 20 years in the U.S. Army, right? He retired, I think it was 96, right, is when he finished up his entire tour. So,
In 96?
In 96-ish.
And how old were you at